Can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. For those up front, it might be a little loud. I invite, if I know we were initially maybe thinking a circle, it might be too loud and disruptive to do a circle, but I do invite those who are just like need a little somatic movement in their listening. You can get up, you can move to the edge, maybe bring your chair to the edge so you have a little more space, because just know it's an option. So this is your chance if you want to get up and do that. Feel free to do that like while I'm reading too, but listen to your body is what I'm saying. Raise your hand if you went on the walk this morning. It's still in the morning. Awesome. It was so good. It was so cold. It was so wonderful. We stopped and talked to a couple trees. I think people got to meet new people moving side by side. We got to see a really cool, just calming, beautiful sky. We stopped at the transit station, and that was just in a 30-minute walk around this space. I think one of the things that I always love, I cannot just do a walking Camino event without movement. I can't just talk about it. So I'm grateful for those that went on the walk, and I'm grateful to all of you for being here. I call myself a multi-disciplinary artist, he, his. I'm gay, queer. I do a lot of creative work around unhurried movement. Movement for mental health, movement for human connection, movement for planet connection, movement for civic action and mobility justice. What we're going to lean into here is me just reading a few snippets from my book. It's creative nonfiction. It's full of stories, artwork, and practices. It's really going to be I hope this is just a calming experience of just listening. That's what I'm hoping for. I love that we were set up with some sound and our eyes closed. So I kind of imagine this as just a really try as you're listening to these stories and these invitations to stay in your body as much as possible. You don't have to overthink or memorize or catch every detail. Try to feel some of the words that are coming through. I'm going to start with the story. I'm going to move into some snippets from different parts of the book. I'm going to read a mobility justice, more like a spoken word poetic piece. I'm going to finish with another story. And then if we have time, there's a little practice, maybe even 5 or 7 minutes, where I'm going to invite all of you to slowly move maybe into space or outside in the junkyard in the negative temps. I also have these little mini art prints on the table here that are going to be prompts for the practice that are gifts to all of you. And there's about 8 different ones. So some of you will have the same and some will be different. But that's kind of what I'm hoping for. Does that sound all right? Did everybody hear that? Okay. The last little note here too is that I'm going to, in between the readings, I might invite us into a deep breath. And then, remind you, Steffi is maybe going to play the singing bowl. I said, if you're feeling things, bang that thing. If you want to play it lightly, great. So hopefully she's not going to but she might, and she's been invited. Freedom. I call this somatic freedom. So maybe you might not be too shocked if it comes out a little hard after something. Because I get a little punchy in my reading sometimes. Just don't be surprised. There's no pressure to bang. But just know, I invite somatic freedom as you're listening. So if you need to get up and sway and stand, if you want to sit on the floor, just make yourself comfortable as you're listening. Okay, let's just start with a deep breath and maybe a little sound to start. So one deep breath, feet on the floor, breathing in deeply through the nose, holding it, and release. Walking as waking up. I remember a hawk swirling above us that day. It followed our route for several hours, landing on the occasional tree or energy pole. As I continued to look up, I was deeply aware that my relationship to time was dramatically changing. I had time to feel, and to be in my senses. I had time to honor the presence of this winged teacher. I had time to notice the way it preened its feathers and gripped the pole with strong, curled claws as it watched us walk by. I smiled a lot as it flew. We made eye contact several times throughout the day. The rain was getting heavier. My head was mostly down to avoid the sting of sideways drops. I was only 3 days into my cross-country walk. The misty, cloudy, and gloomy wetness in March of Delaware had a romantic effect on me. I felt held by the forested trees and their leaves, draped like wet blankets. It was the start of a whole new way of seeing the world, and ultimately, myself. When I watched the flying hawk, I noticed my own desire to soar. When I felt the rain hit my skin, I invited it to wash away fear and unhelpful stories. When I saw the sun peer through the clouds, I could almost touch the warmth of my own inner life. There we were, Kanoa, my cherished furry friend, and I, moving on the slim shoulder of a winding, busy street. This would be my first night without a place to stay. As the setting sun approached, anxiety began to take over. Where would I sleep? My many moments with the hawk, sky, streams, and trees that day helped me to trust that I would land where I needed to land, and I was still terrified. This day was also my first official state crossing. At my unhurried walking pace, it took me 2.5 days to cross into Maryland from Delaware. It felt epic. It was epic. I had never done anything like this. I always encourage people who are interested in a cross-country walking journey to start in Delaware for this reason. It was still raining and getting darker fast. I was about to make a left turn a mile up the road toward Martineck State Park, which rests along the Choptank River in Maryland. My plan was to call the local ranger to get permission to camp. I also knew that at some point, I would just need to put that damn tent down for the night without permission. The rain started to pick up, and so did our pace. Before too long, I heard a faint voice from the woods behind us. Out of nowhere, from the misty, thick forest, a woman came running out, waving with one hand and shielding rain with the other. She greeted us. "Hi, I'm Haley. Do you mind if I walk with you for a few minutes?" "Of course. Are you okay? It's pouring out," I said. She started briskly walking alongside of us. Cars were buzzing by, occasionally splashing us, and I kept remembering Kanoa's face, looking back at me every so often with gratitude and confusion related to the already really long walk. What is happening? Why is she out here walking with us? I kept thinking to myself. I was quickly drawn to her lightness and curiosity. She had long brown hair pulled into a ponytail. She had work clothes on with shoes that were not made for walking in the rain. She was, however, plenty fine, joining us in the roadside downpour. I loved it. I was driving home from work and I noticed your dog's curly tail. I then saw Kiva walk across the USA sign on your backpack. I rushed home to check you out online. As soon as I saw your site, I had to know more. If I knew I ran the back way from my house through the woods, I would catch up to you. We continued walking in the rain. I offered her my rain jacket and she finally took it. 10 minutes went by and she stopped. "Would you like a place to stay?" she said, somewhat quick and lighthearted. "You know, it's pouring. I love animals. I don't want you both out here in the rain. We can have a meal and I'll just come pick you up when you're done with your route," she finished. Here we are. Haley is around 5'4" and I'm 6'4". I am drenched with rain, mud, sweat, and a steamy smell from not showering in 2 days. Kanoa is drenched, muddy, and looks like a wolf. This woman, with her hands over her eyes, is looking up at me on the side of a state highway, asking us if we wanted dinner in a warm, dry place to stay. Dumbfounded and overjoyed. "Are you sure? Wow, I don't even know what to say. I mean, yes, this would be wonderful, but are you sure? This is strange, isn't it? I mean, it shouldn't be, but thank you." I fumbled. There it was, my first trail angel. Someone just showing up as if out of the sky with hospitality, heart, life, nourishment, and love. Well before my walk, I reached out to people who had done walks like this. Each of them had used this term, trail angel. It was in my mind, but it landed hard in my heart after meeting Haley. The temperature was dropping. I asked Haley if she would be okay meeting us in an hour at the shopping plaza down the street. She agreed. I put my stealth camping fears away for the night. I knew they were coming for me, and I needed them to, but not tonight. Haley came to pick us up. I loved her home. It was colorful and cozy. I walked into her skinny hallway to drop my pack and take off my shoes. She had animal fences, toys, and jungle gyms everywhere. She had 7 cats and a rescue dog. We sat on her couch, ate our food, and right away began exchanging meaningful stories. I remember cherishing her laugh. She had such a large and contagious smile with full cheeks and friendly eyes. We covered personal beliefs, stereotypes, sexual orientation and identity, past relationships, family, fears, pain and hardship, dreams, love of animals, hope, consumerism, and so much more. My heart was full. There was no hesitation in sharing just about anything with her. She is that kind of person, and it was that kind of moment. I remember ruminating before sleeping that night that maybe we all have the capacity to be these kinds of people if given the right kinds of moments. She shared with me that she had never done anything like this, and since her job was at an animal shelter, she thought that canoa was the sure ticket that we might be okay. What if I didn't have canoa? What if I was black or darker skinned? What if she knew I had a boyfriend before getting to know me? What if I was wearing a hijab? What if my first language wasn't English? What if I was a woman? What if I was someone walking in the rain without a home? I thought to myself. I carried these aches with me throughout my entire journey. They were important questions for a country and an individual, me, that I felt like I was getting to know more fully and more honestly for the very first time. As I ate breakfast, reflecting on the night before, I knew that I would never forget Haley. I will never forget the way it felt to see her running out from the woods in the rain with her waving hands and eyebrows tilted upward. With a wide open heart and eyes full of tears, I said farewell to my first trail angel and my first walking friend. It still brings the tears. Come on, Haley. Let's take a deep breath. Breathing deeply in through the nose. Slowly out, feet on the ground. Moving with, this is in the chapter, Walking is Human Dignity. When you and I move alongside one another, we are actively expanding our capacity to coexist. We invite and encourage shared experience and dialogue. It anchors us into a more primal way of being. How often are we examining and evolving around how we learn, lean in, and connect with the unique life experience of another? An unhurried pace that is patient, open, undefended, and humble is a force, especially in this time. Dr. John Francis, a Black man who walked for 22 years in silence for environmental climate justice, who wrote the book Planet Walker, also a hero and friend of mine, wrote the words, "Listen actively to learn. Be prepared to hear something new without judgment, and listen to what you have heard before from the place where you are now. Learning may come from a new understanding of what you already seem to know." I sometimes visualize these long walks as digging down into deeper soil. With each step or roll, if you move on a wheelchair or powered scooter, the shovel breaks up crusty concrete bullshit that helps keep me from being more honest, more alive, and more awake. It rumbles the ground. It invites necessary tension. It has the chance to bring us together around what is raw, painful, wondrous, and possible. Hello, resistance. You terrify me, and I need you. You nurture my wounds and give breath to my truths. You are blazing love for all. Moving my body in an unhurried way is its own form of resistance. As my human frame humbly moves, I have time to process, listen, and tend to my stress, fears, aches, and dreams. This kind of resistance to staying busy, always going fast, working the machine, and suppressing what is real, defies all that wants to separate me from you and the planet. That's from the chapter Walking as Resistance. Let's take another deep breath, breathing deeply in through the nose, feet on the ground, connecting with our bodies. This is from chapter 3, Walking is a Human Right. And so for this one, I specifically invite you to close your eyes. This is a visualization exercise invitation. This is connected to the Pedestrian Dignity Project and some of my work in mobility justice. Drenched and depleted. You are walking or moving in a wheelchair. You are en route to catch the only bus that goes to where your medical appointment is. It runs every hour and sometimes doesn't show up at all. You know the buses in the early morning are more reliable. It rained heavy last night, and street medians, intersections, and paved over watersheds are flooded. You are dodging, skirting around, or having to go right through the water. You get splashed by rushing high-speed traffic. Because of the flooding, you have to go slower than usual. Your back hurts because you didn't sleep well. Your shoulders hurt because it's not good for you to carry all these groceries. Your glasses are fogged up and you can't wipe them. You're angry because you slipped in a can of soup when rolling into the gutter. Your mind is heavy because you are exhausted from the grind. Your heart aches because you never seem to get enough time with loved ones. Shit, you see the bus several blocks ahead. It is 10 minutes early. The no bench, no shelter bus stop is full of people waiting. You see them start to get on. You panic. Maybe you can make it if you take your time. Yelling won't help. You can't wave your hands. You pick up your pace, clench your bags, hold your pain, and try. There it goes. Everyone got on, except you. You worked so hard to arrive early, too. You knew the weather would be bad. You knew you had to be quick at the store. The bus flies right by you, splashing you on the way out. You tried to wave your arms to make a scene and ignite sympathy from the driver. Not today. Not on most days. Cars continue to rush past you. No one sees you. Time turns to heavy mud. You must stand there for the next hour and wait for the next bus, if it comes. No bench, no shelter, drenched, depleted. You could rest in a nearby cafe, but you have to buy something. You can't sit in the patch of thorny grass because it's soaked and would hurt your knees. You also need to use the restroom. Where could you possibly go? Hold it in. You will be shamed and fined if you go in public. Keep it in. Pause for a moment. Take a deep breath. How does this invitation make you feel? Have you ever felt this way related to your transportation experience? Why or why not? How might class, race, health, ability, and time spent in an automobile influence or impact your reflection? So let's do another deep breath all the way in. Slowly out. This is from chapter 7, Walking as Play, beckoning the inner child. As soon as they were dropped off and after a few strange looks, we started moving. Within minutes, they wanted to search for good walking sticks. I always had a walking stick with me and they immediately wanted one too. Each of the boys, 1-7 and 1-9, eventually found one that worked for them. Their mom connected to our journey a couple days prior and felt that it would be fun to have her boys join me for a few hours. I always loved meeting and moving with young people in big open spaces. I had several parents, mostly homeschoolers, drop off their kids throughout my long walk. Y'all, it's a thing. They look up the website, they see, okay, he's fine, it'll be a great learning experience. I got shit to do. Drop the kids off. The first time with these boys, I did not get the contact information for the parent. So I'm like, this is going to get crazy after a couple hours. I always remember feeling awestruck and inspired by their level of trust. I learned quickly in my cross-country walk that nearly everyone, no matter the age, would eventually feel lighter and more themselves after a good 15 to 20 minutes of movement. As we moved, we talked about family, hobbies, and what excited each of them. The questions came rolling in. What does Kanoa mean? What does Kanoa eat? Does he like kids? Is he a wolf? Do you ever ride on his back? Can I ride on his back? Where does he sleep? Where do you sleep? How big are your feet? Why do you pee? I'm sorry. Where do you pee? Why do you pee is possible. Let's get it all happens. What do you eat? Why do you walk so much? There was no shame in any question. Do you ever accidentally poop on your shoes? I'll never forget that question. This kid was tracking. Because yes. He was tracking. Smart. In less than an hour, we were singing, laughing, and stopping to explore everything that showed up along the road. We were alive. They climbed on hills, I would follow. Their eyes would widen at the sight of slowly moving beetles. So would mine. They examined an old rusty toy that was tossed out of a car window. I was curious with them. They yelled and sang, so I yelled and sang. They pretended their sticks were swords, so I did the same. Play and wonder spilled from their pores. It also started to spill from mine. What could I climb next? What could we explore together? We saw a snake slither away and watched it until we couldn't see it anymore. We stopped to look at flowers and bugs. We threw rocks at nearby fence posts. The first one to hit the post 3 times won. We had colorful and lengthy conversations with the cows and horses we passed along the way. We dug up dirt, took breaks under trees. I learned so much from these two. In just 2 hours, we found a way to connect and play beyond the world of cars, walls, screens, and rigid relationships to time. I was reminded of how dull adulting has become. Ugh. Even as I worked to break free from so many molds on this walk, the 2 boys made it clear just how much I was still missing. There were and are so many opportunities around us to be in constant wonder and play. At the 2-hour mark, the youngest was done. His face started to cave in and the moping began. It was time for Mom to pick them up. Luckily, she came. She found us. We were only on the same state highway, thank God. As she drove away, they held onto their sticks in the back seat while waving out the window, screaming, "Goodbye, Kanoa." Kanoa really was the star. So let's take another deep breath. All the way in. If you're doing a second deep breath, breathing in compassion and creativity with your in-breath all the way in. Slowly out. You all will notice that I have in this book all kinds of little illustrations. So this book is creative nonfiction. There's drawings. You'll see some of the artwork out there. I take my sketchbook with me, my little writing pads. I go for days and weeks at a time. It's where I get a lot of my ideas. As we think about this theme of creative wonder, creative mornings, creative capacity, being creative in tense, difficult, heavy political, social unrest, heavy social, political injustice, spaces where we don't feel like we have tools to move with and be with people who support the injustices that we're seeing, family members, people that have confusion around the injustices that we're seeing, people that are terrorized on our streets. I used to work in refugee resettlement in Denver for years. So I'm incredibly close to families that literally don't feel safe walking outside every day because of what's happening with ICE. And it's not new, it's been happening. A lot of us know this, a lot of us are leaning into this it's new for a lot of, whatever the story is related to what's impacting us. And I want to go back to the beginning frame here that I was reading from. How are we going into these harder, heavier spaces where we can still have joy and connection, but we're going into the real, raw, hard conversations as well. And I can't stress enough, we all talked about this a little bit on our walk this morning, just how good it is to invite movement and to get creative with art, with writing, play, but specifically for this topic of Camino and path and journey and movement forward. I just, even that in and of itself, bodies moving slowly forward. Bodies moving slowly forward under a big, open, inclusive sky. Bodies moving forward next to trees that de-stress the ecosystems around them, that are unbelievably adaptive and curling and breaking branches when need to. You can see all the benefits of creating opportunities to host and invite family members, colleagues, neighbors, to be in connection and community around the real, the raw, around the joy and the wondrous. And so this chapter, Walking as Creative Wonder, and this topic of Creative Mornings, it's so aligned because I'm going to test my walking group right now, but after just 20 minutes of unhurried movement, what happens in the brain? I'm going to invite you to say it again. Everybody just join now, say it with them. I'm not playing around. Can we see how the brain, a colleague peer of mine, Shane O'Mara, I quote him several times in this book. If anybody is a neuroscientist nerd, after 20, 30 minutes, the brain creates new neural pathways, new networks. So we think about complex, difficult, tension-heavy conversations. We can go ahead and do that. We can get creative. We can host events. We can invite our family out for a walk. We can be like, all right, family, we go for a walk. I'm not saying it's that easy, but I told somebody earlier, I like to plant the seed if you're going to invite these heavier conversations so that we can actually connect with each other around the real stuff, the hard stuff, the grieving stuff. Start the movement event with just 20 minutes of movement. Don't get into that stuff right away. Let movement be movement. Why? Because after 20 minutes, okay, we got, I hope that was a solid seed, an invitation. I'm not going to read this little segment because I kind of just shared it, but there's a great little spot in here called Nourishing Our Spark. This chapter is full of little practices, spirals in color, to be in awe. The final practice in this chapter, each chapter has a dedicated practice that goes into more detail for how to plan these types of walks. The chapter, Walking as Vulnerability, gives you tools and resources to have a heavy, hard conversation, maybe one-on-one with someone that you do trust or that you're leaning into trust. So there's a lot of tools in here for giving you ideas to host events. This last practice in Walking as Creative Wonder is titled Brave Creativity. So what I would love for us to do, can we have 5 minutes to do the practice?
We have to be clean up the chairs by 10. So
Oh, okay. Okay, well then here's this.
Maybe we can do that. You can still hang out here and stay. Just the junkyard opens to public, so we just need to get the tables and the chairs away, and then you can still hang out and get a drink. And
I just saw the time. I'm so sorry. I could keep going.
It's okay.
Well, let's close with, there are prints up at the table. Take one. Take this print with you. What I recommend is if you don't look at it now, if you give it a quick glance, great, but try not to look at it. And put it in your pocket, put it in a book, and then go outside on your own and start with 20 minutes of movement. Just let movement be movement. Be unhurried, try to slow down. It's gonna be hard, your brain's gonna turn on in all sorts of ways. Touch a tree, look at the sky, feel the ground. And then after about 20 minutes, pull that prompt out and invite that theme of brave creativity. With your art projects, with writing, with these tough conversations, creative dialogue, anything. And really be mindful of what happens in your brain after that 20-minute mark as it inspires creativity. Does that sound good?
Yeah. Good, thank you.